Manifestation, love, and transformation. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative dreams.
Hey, 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 it's another groovy day, and most of you already know that's because I make it that way. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. As always, before I start the show, I like to get myself centered and situated and ready for some great content, and I invite you to do the same. Let's take in a deep breath. And as you're taking in that deep breath, just think about what it is that you connect to. What gives you power? What is it that you connect to? It could be the tree, it could be God, it could be Allah, it could be the doorknob that opens the door to your world. Anything that you really connect to. Think about that. Let's take in a deep breath. And let that breath out with a big ah. And just let your essence flow up from your solar plexus, up through your heart center, right out of your speaker box and out into the universe and get connected. Let's do that one more time. But this time, as you're taking in that deep breath, think about those dreams, visions, and goals. Those things that you're passionate about, that you want to bring into fruition. And now another big let those dreams, visions, and goals flow up through your heart center, out of your speaker box and out into the universe. And here's what you want to think about is just allow the universe the opportunity to make those dreams, visions, and goals come true for you. There you go. Da, da, da. Look, Jackie's kind of got a smile on. My objective in doing all
I'm
that.
working with technology here, trying to figure out the sounds.
As always, I have my co-host. She's riding in the background. I think she's probably working with the Facebook Live. There is a Facebook Live, and she's probably shared that. And I'll do that in a minute after I bring her on to tell me what's going on, Jackie Bailey, with Public Speaking Studio, Speak Feed Lead Project, Jackie Bailey Speaks. You got a lot cooking, and you're like, I don't want to say in the fire. I was going to say in the fire. You're like in the thick of it.
Yes. Well, a fire would work with the metaphor because you said got a lot of things cooking. So yes, there's a lot of burners going, and I need some afterburners. Yesterday, we opened up registration for our Speak Up Summit. Yay! And our guest today is going to be one of those presenters on the summit. And no, because of COVID, we can't have summer camps. And so in lieu of that, we're going to have 10 days of 2 sessions of a summit. We're going to get the kids online with their parents, and we're going to give them opportunity to hear experts and icons and leaders from all sorts of industries that have messages for kids and teenagers to help them feel empowered and ready to roll. And so it's going to be a really cool opportunity to get your kids in front of a computer for a really good reason, inspiring and educational. And so that's called the Speak Up Summit. And you can check it out by going to summit.speakfeedlead.org. Yay!
And you've designed this too. The parents can watch along with the kids and maybe have a discussion about that. That was one of your big points.
Yeah, we hope they do. Actually, I would love it if the children and their parents sat and watched these presenters, and then had a discussion about it at the end of each day. That would be amazing, because not only then are the kids being inspired, but they get to hear a little bit more from their parents and stories and experiences their parents have had, and parents will understand a little bit more what the kids are going through. That would be an amazing byproduct of the whole thing.
Well, communication, open up those communication lines. And I think that's a big part of what our guest is going to bring forward today.
Yep.
Cool. And that's all coming the first week in August for 2 weeks straight. We're shutting down Life Master Radio. We're going to have some really cool replays, but we're going to take, well, I can't even say we're going to take a little break because you're not going to take a little break. You're going to move into another.
Yeah. So all of our listeners go to the summit instead of watching us on Tuesday morning.
Now we're going to have a competition between our replays. Oh, that's funny. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com. Pick one and it will take you there. Anything that we talk about, we're going to talk about some cool stuff, and we're going to throw out some links that I don't think are up there yet, but they will be up there, and they will take you to some amazing places and some amazing information that our guest today is just doing some amazing things. While you're on the show page, right over on the right-hand side is a link to our newsletter. We send out a newsletter once a week. And it highlights who's been on the show, who's come, and address for is just that. My screen tells me that my internet connection is unstable. Did I?
Yes, you're glitching a little bit.
Still? Check 1,
You're
2, 3.
a little glitchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just give it 1, 2, 3. How's it now?
To catch up.
It does that every once in a while. I think there's something else in the house on or something. But okay. You ready for the show? I think we're ready for it. Oh, don't forget my book. While you're at lifemasteryradio.net or .com, you can check out my book, and you will just love this book, 6 Keys to Life Mastery, Unlocking Life Skills for Successful Living. Pretty cool little book. I know you'll love it. After you love it and read it, go to Amazon and give me some feedback. I think I would love that. And I know you're going to love the book. It's great. It's a short read, great read, and it will plant some seeds into your mind for the rest of your life, for your life mastery journey. There we go. Okay, Jack, you ready for the show?
I'm so ready.
I have 2 Jackies on today, so one's going to be Jack and one's going to be Jackie, and our guest is Jackie Simmons. Jackie's known as the mission-driven mentor. Isn't that a cool description? She believes that everyone has a message. I believe that too. Jackie believes that. My girlfriend, Debbie, with Story Talk Radio, believes that as well. Everyone's on a mission, and that you have a tribe that wants to both hear and support you. Jackie believes that your message, your mission, and your tribe all matter. That's why she created a course and hosts events around becoming a better advocate for yourself, your family, your business, and your tribe. Jackie also believes that your child matters, and that's why she co-founded the Make It a Great Day movement and the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. Hugely needed in today's world. We're going to talk some more about that. The mission: make suicide, especially teen suicide, a thing of the past. What a huge goal that will benefit everybody. She wrote a book, and this is a cue for Jackie to hold the book.
Which one do you want me to hold up? This is the one we wrote for the mission, and that
Okay.
I have 20 of my friends got together, and we got this done in 3 weeks.
Okay, there's that one, and then you have another hand. You could hold up the other one.
Well, let's get it where I don't lose my makeshift studio today. The elephant in the room is that I have a roof over
Oh, it's
here.
underneath. It's
There we go.
underneath.
Ta-da!
Uh-oh. There you go. Oh.
1 second. Hold, please. There
There
we
we
go.
go.
This
Nice.
is the series. This is your path from secret to success, and it's all of the business skills. And then the second book comes out this summer, which is your path from beating yourself up to beating your own drum.
That's very cool.
Nice.
Well, Jackie, welcome to the show. I got to think about this now. What am I saying? Who am I talking to? Da, 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 da. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today? You're already having fun, aren't you?
I am having a great day. Now, I have an advantage over you. I'm on the East Coast, so I've had a 3-hour head start.
Right.
So let's just back up the struggle. What did you set off in life to become? Right? And when did this all change? You have a great story where you were inspired and we want to hear it.
All right. What did I set off in life to become? Absolutely not sure how to answer that. What I did become was a stress management consultant and a business consultant. So I'm the intersection of those two things. I became an entrepreneur by accident. I was a single mom. And at the end of the month, I could either pay my daycare or I could pay my rent. And I couldn't do both. And I was lucky. A friend said, Jackie, have you thought about having a home-based business? There was a need for family-based daycare in the area we were in. I did the world's fastest sprint through my state certification program and launched a business having no flippin' clue what I was doing. I knew nothing about networking. I knew nothing about anything, but I knew that I had 3 daughters to keep a roof over their head and food on the table. And that if I walked them to the bus stop every day and told all of the other parents at the bus stop that I was now doing daycare and that I had openings for this age group and this age group, I had a pretty good shot.
Nice.
That somebody would know somebody. I didn't know what that was called. Yeah. And then I went into my first professional meeting and was planning to be in the back and be very quiet because I was very nervous. And I overheard someone say they were getting phone calls and they didn't have any openings and they didn't know what to do with these kids that needed care that they didn't have openings for. And I was like, I've got openings. Let's talk. Shyness went out the window. And it was like, well, send them to me. Here's my phone number. Don't we have a network? Don't we have some kind of referral system or something? They said, well, we've been talking about setting one up. And I'm like, great. When does it launch? And they told me that they'd been talking about setting one up.
No action yet, but we're thinking
for 3
about
years. For 3 years. And I'm like, well, stop talking and do it. That's called volunteering. I didn't know that either. I just volunteered to set that up. And I predate things on the computer. We did this with index cards. And then I did it with a dual floppy disk and writing a database and stuff in DOS. And so, yeah, for those of you who
and
think
posters at the library, right?
oh my God, you think that we can't, people think people my age can't keep up with technology. They have no flipping idea what keeping up with technology really means. Yeah. So anyway, so that led me to creating courses, mastering things that helped cure my back pain. I'm an Eastern Healing Arts practitioner, mastering things that helped heal my chronic depression by going into things like transformative mediation. So not just meditation, but I'm a mediator by training. And all of these things together brought me to a place where I was hosting my own event, which is the moment of pivot. Pivot didn't start with the pandemic for me. Pivot started a year ago in August 2019, when at my own event, my daughter gave a 7-minute talk that not only rocked my world, it launched a mission.
Yeah.
That's my pivot, is in that moment when she started with the statistic of 3,000 a day. 3,000 a day. That's the number of teens who attempt to take their own lives every day.
In
Just
the nation? In the nation, right?
Just in the US, just the ones who don't die. The number goes up if you add the ones who died. And this number is what was published by the Center for Disease Control. This is before COVID.
Right.
They're not publishing numbers yet.
Yeah.
And the numbers for 2019 make my hair curl, and my hair is not naturally curly. So the second part of my daughter's 7-minute talk was when I was 14. And she started publicly sharing about her multiple suicide attempts when she was a teenager that I had lived through, but we hadn't talked about in 20 years because I had sold myself. By the way, I'm really good at sales. I sold myself on the idea that if she was getting professional help, we didn't need to talk about it. I didn't know how deadly the silence could be until she shared that she still struggled. She was 37 years old. And in the middle of my event at the front of the room, she's telling people how she still struggles with suicidal thoughts to this day. And I'm in the back of the room with my brain exploding. How could I have missed this?
Yeah.
And that moment was followed by the greatest gift she's ever given me. She said she wanted to start a program to help teens master this art of finding joy every day, learning the coping skills that she'd learned along the way. And here's the critical part: before they need them.
Yeah.
And that's what was behind this mission that started with the book, Make It a Great Day, The Choice is Yours, became a book about breaking the silence. It's a collection of stories of the days that people stubbed their toe, and something happened where it didn't end up stubbing their life or even their day.
Yeah.
And that led to going into schools, talking to teens, finding out something I didn't want to know. And I didn't want to know. Just like I didn't want to talk about this 20 years ago, I still don't want to talk about this topic today. But what I realized is that we must.
Yeah.
We must talk about this today, because the silence led to me standing in a room of high school students asking them, do you have a story? Do you have a friend who tried or died? And one by one, they went around this room. One young lady shared that she lost her first friend to suicide in elementary school, and her second friend last year, and she was a sophomore. When I left that high school, I sat in my car and I cried, because it wasn't some of the kids in the room that had a story. It wasn't even most of the kids in the room. It was 100%. Every single student in that room had a friend who had tried or died, or they had tried. 100%. And I'm like going, I'll bet I could go to every one of their parents and find that their parents think that their kids are happy, normal, sometimes bored, sometimes grumpy. They are normal.
You know, that seems to be the consistent part of it, because I personally, and I think everybody probably is connected to somebody or another, but I personally have two really close friends that succeeded in committing. And one of them was my roommate when I was overseas in the United States Marine Corps. And Jackie, I can tell you, there was no indication, not that I could pick up on. I'm sure the signs were there.
Oh, maybe not. Don't be so sure.
Yeah.
Here's what happens in the world. Someone that you know tries or dies. And then you start discovering that places like the Center for Disease Control have these checklists. The NAMI, the Society of Suicide Prevention, all of these places have these checklists of early warning signs. And there are two things about the checklist that bother me. The first one is that most people don't know there's a checklist until after an attempt has been made, and not everybody survives.
Yeah.
So they're not helping in prevention. And the second one is even what I consider criminal. There is not a disclaimer on any of these checklists that I could find that says what's true. What's true is, and there may have been no signs. Without that disclaimer, these are an invitation to a place I call shouldville. It's an invitation to should on yourself. I should have seen it coming. And trust me, I lived in shouldville for over 20 years, and it's impeded every aspect of my life. I didn't realize it until my daughter broke the silence. But this feeling of I should have seen it coming with my daughter's attempts, I should have found a way. Oh my God, even when she broke the silence, I should have found a way to have this conversation sooner. You know, I took myself right to shouldville, and I teach how to get out of shouldville. Yeah. I mean, the reality is that there's no one to blame here.
Yeah.
There's no one to blame. There's no way to see it coming. And there's a way to give people an edge so that they don't ever have to talk themselves off the ledge. There's a way to give people an edge so they don't ever go near the ledge. And that's what the advocacy training program is all
So
about.
tools, you're talking about tools.
I am talking about tools.
Yeah. Because, I just have to back up a little bit, Jackie, because what comes to my mind is, is it our society? Is there more obviously there's more pressure.
You're looking for something to blame. Okay, and so let's go to Margaritaville, where there's no one to blame.
I get it. Good point.
This is the natural negative bias of our brains. By the way, I'm a brain retrainer by background. So this is just the way that our brains are wired. Yeah. Our brains are wired for evolutionary survival. The caveman survived because his brain naturally focused on what's wrong with this picture. The greatest gift you can give your kid are those things where they have to find what's wrong with this picture, because that works with the way their brains are wired to work. We're not wired to find what's right. We are hardwired to find what's wrong. What's wrong with the purple plant, says our common ancestor Og, the caveman. What's wrong with the purple plant? Last time I ate it, I got sick. Me no eat purple plant. Okay? What's wrong with shaking bush? Shaking bush, I'm out of here. Why? My friend got a little curious about a shaking bush and got eaten by what was shaking that bush.
Was shaking that bush? That's great.
I mean, this is how we're naturally wired for survival. And because our bodies have evolved, we've got a prefrontal cortex in our brain that the caveman didn't have. Because we have all of this evolutionary evidence that we are bigger and better and stronger and faster and whatever, the bottom line is, our survival mechanism is still identical to his.
Fascinating.
We go to what's wrong first.
And try and fix it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's fix it. Oh, by the way, the second key to being an effective advocate is learning to listen without the need to fix something.
So, Jackie, are we supposed to then assume that everybody is a potential suicide victim? I mean, is that how we're,
okay?
If there's no signs, and if the signs are unpredictable and really not that helpful, are we just supposed to assume that everybody has, from time to time, the thought of, this isn't worth it anymore, I'm
not gonna live this way another day.
Yeah.
Our kids say this all the time now, and so parents don't even hear it. But here's the deal. Sigmund Freud said, suicidal thoughts are normal. That a man who is 30, who loses his job and his father passed away, will naturally turn to suicide as an escape from that shift.
The thought of it, right? The thought of it.
Right, the thought. The thought of suicide is normal. The thought of, I'm not going to take this anymore. This is actually part of the natural problem-solving mechanism in the brain. It's our natural, what do they tell you to do? What's the worst case scenario? So we're trained to do this. It's not the thought, it's the emotion that goes with it. Once you know that it's a normal thought, then you're not afraid of it. But if you don't know that thought's normal and you put emotion on it, then you start being afraid of the thought. What do you do when you're afraid of something? You try not to think about it. You ever tried not to think about an elephant? What happens? You think about an elephant. You try not to think about a suicidal thought, you're doubling down on that thought. You're actually thinking about it more by trying not to think about it, and your subconscious mind is uniquely programmed to go after opportunities to get you what you think is important, aka
that's true.
What you think about. This is the law of attraction in action in a way that most people don't think of the law of attraction. So what's happening in the subconscious mind is that the harder you try not to think about suicide, not to think about your problems that are insurmountable, the minute you slide from helplessness into hopelessness and you try not to think about that stuff, your subconscious mind goes to work, creating a plan, looking for opportunities. And this is what we're seeing happen. In the teenage brain, the prefrontal cortex has not fully developed. It's physically there by the age of 12, but not active fully until 25, over the age of 24. So you got a teenager without the pause button that the prefrontal cortex gives them, with a subconscious plan. All that has to happen is an opportunity comes across their way and they're in action without any conscious thought. And that's why there are no warning signs for this.
Right.
Because the only warning sign would be if a kid felt safe enough with somebody to share the fact that they had a thought they were afraid of, and they don't even know to connect those dots. Because we don't know how to talk to our kids in a way where they can connect thought and emotion.
What a quagmire.
Quagmire is one of my favorite elephants. It's the elephant of being totally stuck. And that's where we've been as a society on the topic of suicide prevention. We've been stuck in ways that we know don't work. Do you want to know the fastest way to raise your risk of suicide? Go into a 3-day lockdown program to assess whether or not you're at risk. What they found is people coming out of those programs are 3 times more likely to take their own life than somebody who never goes into one.
Because of the thoughts. Because
they're just thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, because and the training around how to change the thought, how to come out of the negative echo chamber. Now, there's a great tool. It's called the Why Not Workbook. And it is a way to absolutely break the negative cycle of thinking. It explains a little bit of the brain science and then is actionable exercises. And it's a free gift for everybody who comes into my world, who sees me anywhere. And it's whynotworkbook.com. I like simple.
Whynotworkbook.com. And this, just so we can rephrase or reiterate it, this is put the brakes on, process, figure it out kind of book.
It's break the cycle of negative thinking. And you can apply it to anything. If you're doing any kind of self-sabotage, and we all do some kind of self-sabotage, that's pretty normal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this can break those cycles as well. So it's just an all-around useful tool. And so it's available for everyone. The other tool that I really, really like is there's a group that's done neurogamification of social emotional education tools. So they've gamified emotional intelligence. They've discovered that raising emotional intelligence among kids actually increases their IQ. And so that's, of course, becominggenuine.com. And we know that we're going to get all of these links to people. But there's a free course that any parent can take to learn how this works. You can get the decks of cards and play cards with your kids. 10 minutes of card play has been shown to pull kids out of anxiety and give them better emotional, social skills so they can navigate life. And so I highly recommend that people just start exploring before you need them. Explore these ways to have conversations with yourself first, because if you can master the art of being an advocate for yourself, your kids will start picking up on it out of resonance. These ideas are not taught to us as children. They're caught. We catch them from our parents and the society we're in. And
I think you're describing leadership by example.
Well, there you go. Leadership by example. You are all about life mastery. I will tell you, you cannot lead anyone until you start leading yourself. That's what I've learned.
That's true.
And so all of these skills, whether it's about breaking the pattern of negative thought, whether it's about developing your emotional IQ so that you have better social skills and ability to navigate working with other people, or whether it's actively pursuing, becoming a believer in the power of positive outcomes, the possibility of positive outcomes in your life. Any one of those 3 paths, or hey, you could have them all. Yeah. And I recommend that people do it all.
Yeah.
Well, at least explore it. So let's just take a minute, and I want to remind the listeners that you are listening to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey. There's Jackie. Wave, Jackie. Okay. And our guest today is Jackie Simmons, and she has well, many books. You could hold up one or two of those books, but she is all about suicide prevention, especially with the teens. And it sounds like she's just an amazing person who is, how's it described? Known as the mission-driven mentor. That's what she is. So before the break, we just touched on these tools a little bit, but describe for us the book. Does the book lead us to these tools? Are there tools in the book?
There are some tools in the book, including how to easily prevent overwhelm. Because I'm an entrepreneur, and entrepreneur and overwhelm tend to go together, the first story in the book is about how do you make decisions how do you say no enthusiastically so that you cannot have a plate that's too full. So prevention in all ways and shapes. Some of these stories are real. All the stories are real. Some are wrong. They're all relatable. And the joke is that some of them come with dog turds, because there actually is a story about a house that came with dog turds from a realtor's point of view.
Wow.
So it's not doom and gloom. Suicide is certainly serious, but we believe suicide prevention can be seriously fun.
Now, Jackie, in all of the young people that you've talked to about this, do you get a sense of why some of them don't move forward with their thinking about suicide? Because I know a lot of them attempt it, a lot of them fail, thank goodness. But are there some who also think about it? Obviously, we must all be thinking about it. But what keeps some of those kids from making that decision? Do they have some other factor that keeps them from doing that? I mean, is it a sense of something larger themselves? Are the kids that have a religious background, are they less likely to make that final decision, or more likely? Or is there anything that helps these kids to make a different decision when the moment arises where they could make one or the other? Is there anything that you've heard about that?
You made an assumption. There's an elephant in the room in the question, Jackie. The elephant in the room is that there's a belief that says that kids' brains work the same way adults' brains do, and that it's a conscious decision. An adult who jumps off a bridge is usually going to have their belongings packed, a note written, a plan in place so that they don't, they're jumping off a bridge so they don't leave a mess. They've actually thought these things through. As a matter of fact, one of the guests on the last suicide prevention show, Mark Bonus, his story was that he Googled the fastest, most painless way to die. Now, some teens do that. They actually do have a plan, but not all, and certainly not most. For many, many of them, it is nothing more than what I just described. Opportunity meets unconscious plan because they've been trying hard not to think about it. The difference is, do they have a safety net where, one, they know that it's just a thought and they're not afraid of their thought? Do they have people to talk to? And let's face it, no one goes and says, I had a suicidal thought. Can I talk to you about this? Right. Why? Because your family's going to flip and run. Your parents, out of all love for you, will say, oh, honey, don't think about that. The number of times I've said that to my kids.
But it sounds like if your child were to come to you and say, I'm thinking about suicide, the parent is going to go, oh my gosh, we're going to get you into counseling. So they put a child in counseling where the focus is going to be, why are you thinking of suicide? And then that becomes the ultimate thought, which actually encourages their brain to help them make the decision to do it, is what you're saying. Exactly. Right?
Yeah. When you focus on why does somebody do something, you are inherently looking in a direction, I think, that doesn't serve you. And here's my reasoning. Do you know why you do what you do? When you decided to put on that necklace today, Jackie, do you know why you put that necklace on rather than another necklace?
Actually, I do.
Yeah, good. Okay, good.
It's because Tuesday is Pink Day,
There we go.
So there's pink in the necklace. So that's why I put this one on.
Awesome. Generically, there's another answer that covers every situation. When you decided to put your shirt on, Todd, what made you decide on that nice checkered pattern shirt?
I did an event last night, and my girlfriend picked it out for me last night, and I didn't put it on.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw it in my closet today, I thought, oh, well, she picked it out last night. I better put it on today.
There we go. Generically, the answer is because it seemed like the best idea at the time. At the time that you picked up a necklace, this one seemed like the best idea. At the time that you were in your closet for a shirt, this one seemed like the best idea. At the moment of action, it's because that action, whatever it is, even suicide, we take the action because it seems like the best idea at the time. For people and suicide, which is so permanent, it's because it seems like the only option.
And it's that quick. It's just like, boom.
There's no pause button if you have no prefrontal cortex active. Just think about the impulsivity of teens. Think about the impulsivity of a 2-year-old. You know, bright, shiny object. There's no thought. You know, and we think that we're running our minds, that our minds are running our lives.
Right.
And the answer is no, actually, it's not. Even as adults, how many adults do you know that have impulse issues, impulse control issues? Oh, by the way, if you know someone who's struggling with any kind of addiction, they have impulse control issues. Their prefrontal cortex is not in charge. It doesn't matter how old they are. It only matters whether they've developed this bridge between understanding that your emotions drive your actions, which get you results. And prior to emotion is thought, and all of your thoughts, 100% of your thoughts based on what my students tell me, come from what they believe to be true.
That's fascinating. So then your plan, your mission is to provide teens and adults, I'm sure, with tools that interrupt that, right? So these are things that they learned before this issue. So this is like, this should be included in our instruction manual that we come into this world without.
Oh yeah, if only they came with instructions. If only my brain had come with an instruction manual.
Totally.
That's really what we're creating as we get more and more conversations going with people who are advocates. They come through the training, and what they share with us is what's becoming this whole plethora of what is the instruction manual for your mind.
Yeah.
Because if you absolutely had some sense and you believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were the right person for the job of your life, whatever that is, whether it was getting good grades, whether it was performing well at work, whether it was launching a mission that's so big like this one that I knew I could not do alone, scariest thing I've ever done in my life, by the way. If you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were the right person for the job, what attitude would you have? And what actions would you take? Those are two of the most powerful questions that advocates start living their life from. Control of their own attitude gives them control over their actions.
You know, it must be quite the undertaking, Jackie, to put a prevention program in place when you have parents that are, oh, my kid doesn't have a problem. I've never seen a problem. My kid's happy go away. Why? So how is it that you attract? What is it that attracts them to understand what it is that you're teaching?
Well, I don't try to attract them to understand what I'm teaching.
Okay.
I simply talk to them about the outcomes that they want. They want their children to be bully-proof. They want their children to be suicide-proof. They want their children to be confident, standing up and speaking out. They want to not embarrass their kids by barging into school, speaking up in a way that causes conflict and burns bridges with the administrators at the school. So they want to become better advocates. So they can go into the school if their child has an issue and speak up in a way that actually gets results without causing conflicts.
Well,
those
and
are the outcomes they want.
so the word advocate is really the key to it all, because, you know, here is somebody that's educated on it and that can speak about it and speak to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then other parents are like curious and attracted and genius, just genius.
We've rolled out the program in such a way that the people who come through the advocate training become card-carrying advocates.
Right.
And so they not only get to be card-carrying advocates, those that are really focused on the prevention of suicide, especially teen suicide, we've got people now stepping up to sponsor swag. So we're getting shirts that are going to say, I'm an advocate on this side. And on the back, it says, our conversations save lives. And it's a way of attracting even more and more attention. What if a conversation, one conversation you have with your child could impact positively 20 other teenagers?
Well, and it's what we opened up the show with too, as you described, you know, leadership by example,
Mm-hmm.
and walking the talk and not.
Hold it. This is my hot button. Sorry, Todd. Here's my elephant. I do not believe in people trying to walk their talk. I think that is the most stress-producing way of living ever invented. I would much rather somebody only talk what they've walked.
What
Then
they
there's no
walk.
stress. If they walk it first, action first, and then talk about it,
Yeah.
which is why in the advocate training program, we get into action in session 4. We don't get into sharing until session 6. We don't get into talking about it until after we've walked it.
Did you think up all this by yourself?
You know, I would have to say probably not, because I tend to read and I have been a student and I'm still a student. So I will definitely disclaim. No, I did not think of it all by myself. What I have done is allowed people to tell me what they most need to know about standing up for themselves. They tell me what my students tell me where they're struggling, and then we figure out how to get results where they want results. And even as far as into the messenger community, where people develop the whole business around wrapping a business around their message so that they're profitable, even in that community, it is totally member driven. What do you need next is the most common question that we ask the people in our community. What do you need next? Can you imagine creating a business where you didn't have to figure out what to create and you didn't have to sell anybody on anything because you were in complete service? Oh, by the way, service is lesson 3 for advocates. How do you stay in service?
Totally. Jackie and I are all about Jackie and I are all about.
Yeah. So you got Jackie squared. Yeah.
So you're working not with parents to help them have better conversations with their kids necessarily, but you're empowering each individual child and teenager to be their own best advocate. And
almost.
Because
you discounted the adults in that scenario. I work primarily with adults. I am an entrepreneur. I've worked with women entrepreneurs. I host the Woman Entrepreneur Show. Yeah, I mean, this is my tribe. So I talk about advocacy with them. Why? Because if you're an advocate for your business, if you've sold yourself on yourself first, it's a lot easier for other people to buy into working with you. Whole lot easier because you're coming from a place of authenticity. So I focus on the adults and the people who've come into this program. Some of them are retired teachers. They want to deliver the program to the teens. Now, here's the rub. Funding. The nonprofit is designed to attract sponsors. That money goes to scholarships so that teens can become advocates with scholarship money. Why? Because they have to put some effort into it. A parent cannot sign a child up to become a peer advocate.
Skin in the game.
Yeah, they've got to want it for themselves. They will only want it when they see the power and the impact it has on their lives with their parents. If their parents started treating them as children, which they still are, we know they don't have a prefrontal cortex. That's a clue. Okay. So they're children. I don't care how tall they are. I don't care how deep their voices are. Their brain is not fully developed. And even as adults, let's face it, when you're managing your life from your prefrontal cortex, you are basically trying to drive a car with an aftermarket part. Because your original brain did not have that when you're born. It's an aftermarket part that our society worships. We worship our rational mind. Our rational mind is not the one that's in control. Okay, we have three brains. We have this brain, the rational mind. We have the one in our gut, which is our emotional brain, and that's who's really in control. When we are fully an adult, I know someone is fully an adult when they're leading with their heart brain, where your head brain and your gut brain meet in the middle. And when someone's living their life from there, they're living a purposeful, mission-driven life, and those are the people I love to work with.
Fascinating that you've tapped into, those basic teachings. That's just amazing. That's really cool. What are we missing? We have just about 10 minutes left, Jackie.
All right. Do you want the 6 suicide risk indicators beyond mental health? Okay, we're not talking about mental health or mental illness here. There are 6 risk indicators because Jackie said, do you want to assume that everyone's at risk? Well, I can run those really quickly. You ready?
Here we go.
Yeah.
And everybody, my grandfather was a preacher. This is when the preacher comes, okay? I channel my grandfather. Yeah, here we go. You or your family might be at risk for suicide if someone in your family struggles with a chronic illness or chronic pain. You or your family might be at risk for suicide if someone in your family has an addiction of any kind. You or your, and I do mean any kind. This could be an addiction to being right, an addiction to being on screens and gaming, or it could be one of the majors, drugs, alcohol, sex, and work. Any kind of addiction. You or your family might be at risk. Oh, and by the way, that's because it disconnects you from everybody else. That's what addictions do. The more isolated you are, the more prone you are to getting stuck in a negative echo chamber, what we were talking about earlier. That's
right.
One. Okay? I saw the question mark. At least I thought I saw one. All right. You or your family might be at risk for taking your own life. Someone in your family struggles with ongoing financial issues. You or your family might be at risk for suicide if someone in your family knows someone who's tried or died. You or your family might be at risk for suicide if someone in your family has something about them that's a little different, like a disability, an accent, new in town, something that makes them a little different. And out of all of those, even if you can check off and say, nope, don't have this. Nobody in my family has anything that makes
I don't think you could. I think all of those fit.
Those families, this is the problem. This is what led me to this conclusion that we're all at risk.
Yeah.
It's because by the time you get to know someone who's tried or died, thanks to media, we all know someone. We all know a celebrity chef, a talented singer, a gifted comedian, or just a couple of weeks ago, Elvis Presley's grandson, all over the media when he took his own life. We all know someone. That means we're all at risk. I call it the suicide wars. This is not a popular analogy, but if you spell war with 3 A's, we're all at risk. We are, got to get the R in there. We are all at risk. That's where we are. We're a society and a world at risk, and we are now having, for the first time in history, a common global experience that has shifted everyone forcefully without our permission. At least nobody asked mine. We've been forced out of our comfort zone. We're all at risk because we've lost our moorings. We've lost our sense of normalcy. We've lost the illusion, and it's always been an illusion, of control.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people have, it seemingly to me, have gone off the deep end. Really? I live on a lake.
Language is a problem.
I live on a lake, and
just the deep end. And
just
yet
yesterday,
they haven't gone off the deep end, Todd. What they have done what they've done is the natural, normal response to chronic fear and trying not to think a negative thought. They're being caught up in the negative echo chamber. They have not gone off the deep end. There is nothing wrong with them. They are actually behaving the way the brain was designed to behave.
Good point.
They are normal. Those of us that have not gone that direction are the weird ones, because we're actually discovering how to balance these aspects of our personality. So
Right.
Congratulations, Todd, you're weird.
Yeah, we're all, you know what, we're all wackadoodles in our own right. I truly believe that. Yeah.
I think it's a good way to be.
Wow. So, Jackie, you shared with us one of your books, and you talk about the KLT factor.
Know, like, and trust. Advocates start the journey with getting to know, like, and trust themselves. And they start because you can't change something you can't measure. They start with the KLT assessment. They get their KLT factor, their score for their ability to feel confident that they know and like and trust themselves. And then here's my belief. My belief is that if you can raise your know, like, and trust factor, even one increment, you immediately become less prone to negative thinking. You immediately become more open to other people because you're less afraid of other people's judgments. And other people's judgments are one of the primary reasons we don't take effective action. We're afraid somebody's going to tell us we're doing it wrong. Now, why would we think that? Let's see. How about you talk to your friends and your family about the fact that you want to be an entrepreneur and you get greeted with, when are you going to get a real job?
All right.
Are you ready to give that up yet? Now, they don't do this to be mean. They do this out of love. And if you've ever heard, and I'm going to be super fast story here. This is the crab story. I don't know if I created it, but I'm making it famous. I grew up crabbing. Okay, you take a chicken neck, tie a string, throw it off a pier, and wait. And the string starts to jerk. So you pull it in, you reach down, get a long handled net, scoop up the crab, put it in a bucket, and put a lid on it. Because those crabs are fast. They can climb out of a bucket and scurry away. Now you throw that chicken neck back out. And when it starts tugging again, pull it in, scoop it up, put it in the bucket, and you don't have to put the lid on the bucket anymore. Because if either crab, doesn't matter which one, if one crab starts to climb up, the other one will pull it back down to keep it safe. Our family and friends do the same thing. They want to keep us in the comfort zone of what we know, the normal. What's normal? Why? Because this is how the caveman survived. You did something outside of what everybody knew was safe, odds were not high that you would survive. Now, the good news is some of them did, which is why we have something called evolution. But the reality is we're hardwired to keep each other safe. So when your family loves you enough to say, are you crazy? Would you go get a job? Or whatever it is that you're trying to, what do you mean you're going to write a book? Don't get me started. When they do that, just remember, they're just being crabby. They just love you.
Just being crabby.
Just being crabby.
Just being crabby. Just love, they're being crabbish, just love them in their crabbishness because they're loving you by being that way. And then be a little more discerning about who you share your mission with. Get around a tribe. This is what's so good about a tribe. Some tribes are family designed to keep you safe. Some tribes are the explorers, the adventurers, the entrepreneurs are over here. This is where you take your dreams, is into a group of entrepreneurs, the people who follow Life Mastery Radio. These are the people you want to take your dreams and share them with because you know they're going to support them. Everyone else, would you just share your latest recipe for a souffle?
Oh my goodness, ladies, we are out of time. Jackie, we're going to have you back. I think there's a lot more to talk about. Did you have fun today?
I did. Thank you.
Oh my! Did you have fun, Jack?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jack, I'm looking forward to getting to know Jackie much better. She's been
She seems.
about that.
So we're gonna have. I hope you're open to coming back on the show. I think there's a lot more to talk about, and you are just on fire, and you're gonna evolve into much more. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I really appreciate you tuning in. I would really appreciate it if you would tell a friend. Tell a friend about the show and how cool it was and how much fun those people had on that show today. Lastly, and I know our guest is really going to enjoy that, I would really appreciate it if you would make it a great day, because it's all about choice. Choose to check out our website, choose to check out Jackie's website, and choose to check out Jack's website. That's it. We're done. Bye-bye for now.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
next week.